Hey there, my name is John and welcome to my new YouTube channel, Practical Computing Bytes, or PCB for short. The genesis of this channel was born out of my frustration due to the absence of a central repository of UEFI BIOS information. My first batch of videos will be taking a deep dive into every BIOS entry to define and explain what all the options are. In order to do that, I've built a machine that will be used for this demonstration. In this first episode, I thought it would be interesting to present a time-lapse video of me assembling this PC over the course of 4 nights. Here it is. Well, that was an interesting exercise. My plan was not to turn this into a formal case review of the ROG Z11, but it was an interesting project, and I had a couple of thoughts after I got done with it. First and foremost, this is a beautiful case. The glass and aluminum, the materials are really nice, and it's one of the nicest cases that I've ever had a chance to work in. So thumbs up to Asus for that. However, I describe this case as kind of like a sports car. It's not very practical, it can be a little temperamental, but if you're willing to put the work in, you can have a really beautiful experience with it. I think that's what Asus was going for here. However, there are some trade-offs with this. Asus wanted to give the user flexibility to be able to use the case in the horizontal position or in the vertical position. As a result, the user does not have any direct access to the rear I/O of the motherboard. So if you want to swap out something or plug in something, there's a lot of panels you have to remove to get to it, and at least one of those panels you have to unscrew. I got around that by using cable extensions like this for USB, DVI, Ethernet, but it is a trade-off, and it is something you have to consider, and it is a little bit extra cost if this is a direction that you want to go in. And speaking of cables, another downside is that this is a mini ITX build, but the case is pretty big. I thought in order to have a little bit more cable management room to go with a small form factor PSU. Unfortunately, the cables from the small form factor PSU didn't reach some of the components. So that turned a 3-day project into a 4-day project as I had to go on Amazon and order some cable extensions. These are from Asia Horse. They actually look pretty cool, but I wasn't planning on having fancy cable extensions as part of this build. The hope was to have a machine that we can tinker with, go through all of the BIOS options, which is going to be in my next videos. But having a little nicer cable extensions, hey, that's pretty cool. As I mentioned, this is a mini ITX build. The motherboard that I have in here is an ROG Strix B550-I, and we're going to be going through every single BIOS option and entry within the BIOS to try to just kind of catalog and categorize and define all of the different options. Ryzen appears to be pretty consistent across the board, so regardless of what motherboard manufacturer you may have or be interested in, the terminology might be a little bit different, but I think all of the options are going to be pretty similar. So I'm hoping that if you find this of interest, you'll stick around as we dive into this over the next several videos to see what all these options are, what all these entries mean, and maybe you'll find that helpful. I know it helped me as I went through this process. So if you found this video helpful, please consider liking and subscribing. I hope to see you come back on the next one, and thanks for watching.